kilogram. Ozone depletion, 1,000 ton ozone depleting substance. Hunger, shut of people undernourished. 16 good things increasing. New movies, number of being feature films per year. Protected nature, share of Earth's range surface protected as national parks and other reserves. Women's right to vote, countries with equal right for women and men to vote. New music recording per year. Science, scholarly articles published per year. Harvest, cereal yield thousands of kilograms per hectare. Literacy, sale of adult 15 plus with basic skills to read and write. Democracy, sale of humanity living in democracy. Child cancer survival, 5-year survival of those diagnosed before age 20 with best treatment. Girls in school, share of girls in primary school age enrolled. Monitored species, list species with asserted threat states. Electricity coverage, share of people with some access to electricity. Mobile phone, share of people with cell phone. Water, share of people with water from protected source. Internet, share of people using the internet. Immunization, share of 1-year-olds who got at least one vaccination. It's hard to see any of this global progress by looking out your window. It's taking place beyond the horizon. But there are some clues you can turn into if you pay close attention. Listen carefully. Can you hear a child practicing the guitar or the piano? The child has not drowned, and instead experiencing the joy and freedom of making music. The goal of higher income is not just a bigger pile of money. The goal of longer lives is not just extra time. The ultimate goal is to have the freedom to do what you want. Me, I love the circus and playing computer games with my grandchildren and zapping through TV channel. Culture and freedom, the goal of development, can be hard to measure, but guitar for capita is a good proxy. And boy, has that improved. With a beautiful statistic like this, how can anyone say the world is getting worse? Guitar per capita, playable guitar for 1 million people. The negativity instincts. In large part, it's because of our negativity instinct. Our instinct is to notice the bad more than the good. There are 3 things going to hear you. The misremembering of the past, selectivity reporting by journalists and activists, and the feeling that as long as the things are bad, it's heartless to say that are getting better. Warning. Objects in your memories were worse than they appear. For centuries, older people have romanticized their youth and insist the thing ain't what they used to be. Well, that's true, but not in the way they mean it. Most things used to be worse, not better. But in the extremeness, it's easy for human to forget how things really did used to be. In Western Europe and North America, only the very oldest who lived through the Second World War or the Great Depression have any personal recollection the severe deprivation and hunger of just a few decades ago. And even in China and India, extreme poverty was the reality for the vast majority just a couple of generations ago. It's now mostly forgotten by people who live in decent houses, had clean clothes, and ride moped. The Swedish author and journalist Razor Bag wrote in an excellent report from rural India in the 1970s. When he returned 25 years later, he could see clearly how living conditions had improved. Pictures from his visit in the 1970s showed earthen floor, day clay walls, half-naked children, and eyes of beliefs, low self-esteem, and little knowledge of the outside world. They were a stark contrast to the concrete houses of the late 1990s, where well-dressed children played and self-confidence and curious villagers watched TV. Hen Lasse showed the villagers' 1970s picture. They could believe the photos were taken in their neighborhood. No, they said, this can't be here. You must be mistaken. We have never been that poor. We had never been that poor. Like most people, they were living in the moment, busy with new problem, like the children watching immoral soap opera, or not having enough money to buy a motorbike. Beyond living memory, for some reason, we avoid reminding ourselves to our children about miseries and brutalities of the past. The truth is to be found in ancient graveyard and burial site, where archaeologists have to get used to discovering that a large proportion of all the remains they dig up are those of children. Most will be being killed by starvation and disgusting disease, but many children's skeletons bear the marks of physical violence. Hunter-gatherer society often had a murder rate above 10%, and children were not spared. In today's graveyard, child graves are rare. Selective reporting. You are subjected to never-ending cascades of negative news from across the world. Wars, famines, natural disasters, political mistakes, corruption, bucket cost, disaster, mass layoff, act of terror. Journalists who reported flights that didn't crash or crops that didn't fail would quickly lose their jobs. Stories about gradual improvement rarely make the front page even when they occur on a dramatic scale and impact millions of people. And thanks to increasing press freedom and improving technology, we hear more about more disaster than ever before. And European slaughters indigenous people across America a few centuries ago, it didn't make the news back in the world. When central planning resulted in mass famine in rural China, billions starved to death, while the youngest in Europe waving communist red flag knew nothing about it. And the vast whole species and ecosystems were destroyed. No one realized or even cared. Alongside all the other improvement, our surveillance of suffering has improved tremendously. This improved reporting is itself a sign of human progress, but it creates an impression of the exact opposite. At the same time, activities and lobbyists skillfully manage to make even deep in the trend appear to be the end of the world, even if most people keep thinking crime goes up. Jalab asked, is there more crime in the US? Then there was a year ago, or less, the set of people who answered more crime. Perception, reality. Reported crime in US. Even if the general trend is clearly improving, scaring us is alarmist exaggeration purposes. For example, in the United States, the crime rate has been the downward trend since 1990s. Just under 14.5 million crimes were reported in 1990s. By 2016, the figure was well under 9.5 million. Each time something horrific or shocking happened, which was pretty much every year, a crash was reported. The majority of people, the vast majority of the time, believe that crime is getting worse. No wonder you get the illusion of constant deterioration. The news constantly alerts us to bad events in the present. The doom-laden feeling this creates in us is then intensified our inability to remember the past. Our historical knowledge is rosy and pink as we fail to remember that 1 year ago, or 10 years ago, or 50 years ago, there was the same number of terrible events, probably more. This illusion of deterioration creates great stress for some people and makes other people lose hope for no good reason. Feeling, not thinking. There's something else going on as well. You are people really thinking when they say the world is getting worse. My guess is they are not thinking, they are feeling. If you still feel uncomfortable agreeing that the world is getting better, even after I had shown you all this beautifully data, my guess is that it's because you know the huge problems still remain. My guess is if you feel that me saying that the world is getting better is like me telling you that everything is fine. Or then you should look away from this problem and pretend they don't exist. And they will feel ridiculous and stressful. I agree, everything is not fine. We should still be very concerned as long as there are plane crashes, preventable child deaths, endangered species, climate change deniers, male chauvinist, crazy dictator, toxic waste journalists in prison, and girls not getting on educational because of their gender. As long as such terrible things exist, we cannot relax. But it's just ridiculous and just as stressful to look away from the progress that has been made.